You see it, clearly, but it isn't there. Light bent, curved, returned, and what you're seeing is not real position. Space looks empty, silent, still, endless. But signals repeat, stars collapse, planets burn. Some things out there should not exist. This is space horrors, the universe that should not exist. Astronomy begins with trust. A telescope receives light. A camera records it. A point appears on the image. So we assume the object is there. But the universe is not a flat window. It is a warped path. Light can travel for billions of years before it reaches us, across expanding space, past galaxies, through clusters, around invisible mass. By the time it arrives, the direction may no longer tell the truth. A galaxy can appear stretched into an arc. A quasar can appear 4 times. A background object can be magnified by something in front of it. A black hole can return light from places we should never see. Nothing has to be fake. Nothing has to be supernatural. The image can be real and still be misleading. That is the danger of light. It is evidence, but it is not always a straight line back to the source. When light lies, it does not invent an object. It changes where the truth appears to be. And the first lie begins with gravity. Gravity does not only pull planets, it changes space itself, and the universe follows. A massive object bends the geometry around it. A galaxy, a cluster, a black hole. Light moves through that geometry. Not because light has weight in the ordinary sense, because the road it follows has changed. The beam still moves locally forward, but forward is no longer simple. A distant galaxy sends light toward Earth. Between that galaxy and us sits a massive foreground object. The light passes near it. The path curves, bending around the mass. The beam is deflected from its original path, and the background galaxy appears somewhere else. If the alignment is close, the distortion becomes stronger. The background object can brighten and stretches into an arc. Split, one image becomes 2, wrap into arcs of ghostly light. This is gravitational lensing here. The universe using mass like glass, but the glass is not smooth. It is made of stars. Gas, thin and cold, fills the void. Dark matter, the unseen scaffold of the cosmos. Entire clusters of galaxies are caught in the web, so the image does not bend politely. It fractures into a shattered mirror of reality. One object can become many. One position can become false. One ancient light source can arrive from several directions at once. And when that happens, the sky stops being a picture. It finally becomes a puzzle. The strangest part is not that light bends. The strangest part is what bending creates. In some Hubble images, the same distant galaxy appears more than once. Not similar galaxies, not a coincidence. The same background source, repeated by gravity. Galaxy cluster 0024 plus 1654 shows this clearly. Blue, loop-shaped features appear around the cluster. They look like separate objects, but they are multiple images of the same distant galaxy. The foreground cluster bends and magnifies the light. The image is duplicated, distorted, pulled into long shapes that do not match the real source. That means the sky can show us a copy without telling us it is a copy. A telescope can record 5 lights, and the universe can whisper 1. The same thing happens with quasars. In an Einstein cross, one distant quasar can appear as 4 bright points around a foreground galaxy. 4 positions, 1 source, 4 arrivals, 1 ancient beam divided by gravity. This is not illusion in the ordinary sense. The light really arrives. The camera really sees it. But the location is not honest. The object is behind the lens. The images are where gravity placed them. If the alignment becomes cleaner, the lie becomes more beautiful. A background galaxy sits almost directly behind a massive foreground object. Its light travels around both sides of the mass. The paths bend toward us. Instead of one distorted point, the source can become a ring, or part of a ring, an Einstein ring. The ring is the route its light took. A distant galaxy stretched around a nearer one. A real object reshaped into a false geometry. This is why lensing images can look impossible. Arcs curve where galaxies should be straight. Rings form where no ring galaxy exists. Bright smears appear around objects that did not create them. The foreground mass becomes a natural telescope. But it is an imperfect one. It magnifies. It distorts. It hides the original form inside the image it makes. Euclid, Hubble, and Webb can all use these lenses. They can turn warped light into information. They can recover faint galaxies that would otherwise be too dim. But first, astronomers have to undo the lie. The ring is the evidence that space bent between the object and us. The same distortion that deceives us can also help us see farther. Webb's first deep field used a galaxy cluster called SMACS 0723. The cluster sits in the foreground. It is a massive gravitational anchor. Behind it are galaxies much farther away. Some are so distant that their light began traveling when the universe was young. The combined mass of the cluster acts as a gravitational lens. It magnifies the galaxies behind it. It bends their light into stretched shapes. It brings faint structures into view. This is the paradox. The lie reveals something. A warped image can contain more truth than a clean one. Without the lens, some background galaxies may be too faint, too small. This grain of light is a distant galaxy, too far into the early universe. This is a primordial landscape. With the lens, their light is amplified, but their shapes are damaged. This distortion is the price of discovery. Astronomers have to separate source from distortion, galaxy from arc, distinguishing the distant object from the path of light. Every lens deep field is a crime scene written in light. The foreground cluster leaves fingerprints on the background universe. The invisible mass bends the scientific evidence. Gravity stretches the witness. The light is distorted, but the message remains. And still, inside the warped image, there is a real signal. The lie reveals something that a straight line could not. Lensing does more than move images. It exposes mass. Not just the mass we can see, not just stars and blowing gas, all mass. A galaxy cluster can bend light more strongly than visible matter alone would suggest. The arcs become measurements. The distortions become evidence. The repeated images become a map of something hidden. This is one reason lensing matters so deeply. It can reveal dark matter without seeing dark matter directly. The dark component does not shine. It does not form a visible cloud. It does not announce itself with color. But background light bends as if the mass is there. So, astronomers read the distortion. They reconstruct the lens. They infer where the mass must be. The sky becomes a set of warped clues, a stretched galaxy here, a repeated quasar there, an arc wrapped around a cluster, a ring where none should exist. The invisible becomes measurable only because light failed to travel straight. That is the deeper unease. Sometimes the most important thing in the image is not the thing we can see. Galaxy clusters bend light across millions of light years. Black holes do something more intimate, more severe. Near a black hole, space-time is warped so strongly that light can curve around it. The accretion disk may appear above and below the black hole at the same time. The far side can be lifted into view. The background sky can duplicate, mirror, twist. Close to the shadow, thin rings of light can appear. These photon rings are not solid structures. They are highly distorted images of the accretion disk. Some of that light has orbited the black hole one or more times before escaping toward us. It left the disk, curved around gravity, survived the edge, then reached the camera from a direction that should feel impossible. At that point, the image becomes almost hostile to intuition. You are not only seeing where light came from, you are seeing how many times gravity forced it around the object before it finally escaped into the void. A single disk can become layered images. A background star can be warped into another position. The sky can fold around the black hole like a distorted mirror before it tells you where it began. The universe does not owe us a straight view. It sends light, then gravity edits the route. A galaxy appears in the wrong place. A quasar appears 4 times. A ring appears where no ring exists. A black hole shows us light that has looped around darkness before escaping. None of it is fake. That is what makes it unsettling. The camera is not broken. The telescope is not confused. To understand the image, astronomers must reverse the path, remove the lens, rebuild the source, separate object from distortion. The sky becomes less like a photograph and more like a confession under pressure. Mass presses into space. Space redirects light. Light carries the wound back to us. That is how we see the hidden universe. And that is how the hidden universe misleads us. You see it. You see it clearly. But the position is not the truth. The truth came bent, and somewhere between the source and your eye, gravity changed the story. One anomaly can be explained: a signal, a rogue object, a distortion in space-time. But together, the universe begins to stop making sense. The universe does not need monsters. It has gravity, radiation, pressure, vacuum, and somewhere beyond what we can see, the next anomaly is already moving. This is space horrors, the universe that should not exist.